Hey guys, hope you're all doing well and you're all back in your normal routine now. Next big thing to get on with on the van. We need a floor. So obviously you need a floor to be able to mount things on, so like units and stuff like that. And obviously so it's nice and flat, so then you can either put your lino flooring on or your laminate flooring on, whatever you choose. Before I can get on with cutting the 12mm ply, which will be the floor, obviously we've got these ribs in the actual floor of the van, but in certain areas, like right here, it's totally flat, there's no ribs in it. So we need to make a subfloor. Now, like in sprinters and stuff, because they've got the height, they can build a subfloor out of like 2x2 timber, and then once that's down, they've still got enough headroom to stand up in there. Well, obviously, because this is a Trafic, I ain't got the luxury of that. So we need to make the subfloor as short as possible. The ribs, that's what I keep calling them anyway, but I don't know what the actual proper name is. They're 9mm high. So I've ordered 9mm plywood, and I've cut all of them already where I want them. So all of these will be bonded, and then they're the exactly same height as the floor of the van. So these will then prop up the ply, the 12mm ply, in areas that it's needed so it doesn't start sagging. So that's my layout. The 12mm plywood is roughly 8 foot by 4 foot. Well, obviously the floor of the van is bigger than that. So there's two layouts you can do. You can either take a sheet of ply and go it that way, and then you'd have another one by here, and then you'd have a short one by here. Well, that would mean I'd have to order 3. So I've only got 2. So the best way for me to do it is put one lengthways here, the other one, cut a narrower one there, and then with the excess then I can fill it in at the back here. And all the joins in them will be covered by units there, and will be underneath the bed here. So I've marked it out where they come to with the tape. So yeah, I've cut all them ready. I didn't film any of that because it would have been like 2 hours of me pondering about it. And then I've gone over all the edges with a bit of 80 grit sandpaper just to get any splinters off. Cleaned the floor in the van. And then at the back, along this area, I wanted a piece at the end. So the end of the 12mm has got something to screw into. But we got the seam sealer there. It isn't the factory seam sealer because obviously I re-seam sealed it all. But obviously that is prouder than the floor of the van. So I've just, if I was a carpenter I would have used a router, but I haven't got a router, so I used my trusty belt sander, and I've just marked out everywhere where it needs to go down a couple of mil. So like that one. So every single piece that covers this seam sealer, I've ground it out so that it sits level. A lot of people keep the step there, and a lot of people get rid of it to provide more floor space for when you're in there. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm just gonna have a fold out step that can stow away either up top or inside. So obviously we got to pack this area up. I got a bit of 4x2 there with a bit of 9mm on top of it. That brings it up to exactly the same level as the rest of it, or thereabouts. when I've cut the 12mm flooring, whatever's left, I can cut a piece to face it off at the front there. Just using normal PU sealer. It's bloody freezing today, so top tip, leave them on the radiator when it's cold, because now they'll come out the gun really nice. So I'm just gonna put the sealer onto the wood and then pop it into place where I want it and just work my way around. I got gloves on. Shock horror. Press it down. Taking care to make sure it's on totally flat floor, because there's raised parts where different panels are welded to each other, so they overlap and then they're spot welded. So obviously you don't want it on top of that bit because it won't be level. You might ask, Jazz, why are you bonding them down? Why don't you just screw them to the floor?
Yeah, why?
Well, yeah, you could. Not only is there things underneath the floor, like fuel tanks and stuff, you don't want to be drilling through that, but also think of how many holes will be in your floor then. All the different areas where rust can then start. Now I gotta put weights all over them to hold them down, and you'll see why by here. It's already starting to lift up by there. So if I let that to dry overnight, it'd dry as it was, and then you wouldn't be able to put it down tomorrow. Might be overkill. Put my kid in, you're gonna have enough weights. So that should keep it all into position and press down in full contact to the floor, so we don't get a lumpy bumpy floor. Hopefully. So they're all bonded to the floor now. I saved you the boring part of taking all the weights away. It took ages, that did. So next thing we got to do is obviously lay the 12mm board down and then start cutting it so it fits around the wheel wells and stuff. I've never done this before. I'm no carpenter, and I see loads of videos of people cutting laminate flooring and stuff to go around skirting boards in their houses. I haven't got a clue how to do that, so it's probably going to be a long old process for me. I have drawn it and then drawn it again a little bit smaller, and I'll cut that first and see how that goes. And then where the bulkhead used to be, in the corners it comes inwards, so thus that line marked off there. So I'll cut them first, pop it back in and see where I've buggered it up. Right, first go, and I haven't cut it big enough this way, so it means it ain't going far enough this way to the van, so I need to cut that out some more, and hopefully it should then go more this way. It's not a million miles away now, but what I do want to do is I want this edge here to land on one of the ribs, so it's supported, and I've measured that, so that's 4.5 centimeters underneath the edge of that board there. So rather than cut 4.5 centimeters off of this edge all the way down, I know that edge is already nice and straight, so I think I'd rather cut 4.5 centimeters off at this side all the way, because at least that way it doesn't matter if I get it a bit wavy, or I can hide it with a little bit of sealer if there's any imperfections. And in doing so would mean all my measurements that I've already drawn out will then be wrong, and I'll have to do them all over again. Chippies in the comments will be screaming at me, "Ah, you're doing it all wrong. This is the easy way of doing it." Yeah, I know, but you're not here. So I had to do this corner again. And then I've also allowed for space for the sliding door rubber, there and there. I did have to take the board out again and do this area again after I'd done the 4.5 centimeter cut. The only thing that might need to be redone is obviously I haven't done anything to this edge, and that sticks out of the door, so I'm not sure where that comes to on the door edge yet. I've also just run a 80 grit piece of sandpaper along all the cuts that I've done, just to take off any splinters. I'm happy with that now. We got it lying on that rib there, in the same area that it is at the top, so it's pretty damn straight along that edge. My cut ain't the straightest along there, but that doesn't matter. And then if I take you around the other side, got it straight across the top there, and then pretty snug there, and then it goes around the rubber. Along here is all nice and tight. It's not actually touching. I'm presuming if it was touching, then it might squeak and stuff. With the movement of the van. So I wanted to get it close, but not too close, if you get what I mean. So the next ones to cut is the one going along there, and then left to right at the end here. That's the next board cut. So hopefully I've got that right. I had to notch a little bit out there for a big bead of sealer on the sides. Right, so let's try this now then. Very nice. Right, well we're fitting good all the way around. I haven't got to do any more cuts on that. But for some reason it's rocking. Well, the board is bowed, so that can account for some of it. And then maybe some of these battens have lifted a bit. So, yeah, some of them tilted. What's the floor like anyway? Well, the floor isn't dead flat. A big gap underneath that. Right, so the battens have tilted a little bit. So what I can do to correct that is run a sander over them and run it on multiple battens at the same time, so it levels it off a bit. But again, I'm not too worried because it's all going to get covered up anyway. And there we have one complete floor. I do have a confession to make. I marked it all out, the last piece, measured it. I was like, right, happy days. that should fit. Let's cut that out now. And where I'd done my measurements and my lines for my measurement to then draw the curve around the back end of the tub there, instead of cutting to the line, the curved line that I drew, I cut along the straight lines, which were my first measurements. So then I totally cocked it up. And then I didn't have enough wood left out of that sheet of ply to cut another one. So yeah, I had to go out and get a third board of ply. We're all human, we make mistakes. But it's all fitting lovely now. It all needs to be screwed down now. But we got a couple of jobs to do before I can do that. One, I need to mark out where all the battens are underneath so I don't miss and drill through the steel floor. And we also have to put the closed cell foam insulation in the areas in between the battens. The plywood I bought is what's called WBP. It's weather and boil proof. Now, as far as I know, there's probably more than three, but the three I know is just your normal plywood, you got your WBP, and then you got marine ply. Now, the WBP means it's weather and boil proof. Now, all that means is the glue binding the layers of ply is resistant to moisture and extreme heat. Doesn't mean the wood is. Now, I could have gone for marine ply, but again, a lot of people make the mistake and think that is totally waterproof. It isn't. It's just the next level up for the glue. There's nothing done to the wood at all. It's just even more, the glue is even more resistant to moisture. That's all. It's not going outside, so we don't really need marine ply. WBP is enough for me. You could have probably used normal ply even. How am I going to fix it down to the battens? I'm going to use screws that are only long enough that go through the 12mm and then to a certain extent into the 9mm battens. I don't want them to come out the other side of the 9mm into the steel. I see so many people, even reputable van builders, camper van builders, screwing directly into the floor pan of the van. Like, you're just asking for your van to start rusting. Not only that, you're actually creating a thermal bridge. So where the inside of the van is one temperature and you've got a different temperature on the outside of the van, you've got a piece of metal joining them two. Metal is a conductor. Moisture will gather around there and then, yeah, it just rust will form. So it's not good. Also, the amount of horror stories I've heard of people drilling into the floor pan, and they've drilled through their spare tire, they've drilled into their fuel tank. I mean, just bond it and screw to battens. It's much easier. Got the boards back out of the van. Before I did that, I marked out where all the battens lie underneath the boards. Yeah, we got it all laid out where they all go. And now I just got to drill pilot holes for the screws to go through. So I'm drilling the holes obviously in the center of the battens, and then I'm just working my way around where I think they should go and bringing them inwards away from the edge, I don't know, 2 centimeters. You know when you remember something before you're doing the task that memory is to do with, and then when you go to do that task, then you totally forget to do it? I just did that. It's a bit of a top tip as well. Get a block of wood, and wherever you're going to drill the pilot hole, put the block of wood behind it. Careful you don't drill through your hand as well, but put that underneath, drill your pilot hole into that block of wood as well. And then that way, you don't get the drill bit exploding the black back of your plywood out. So I totally forgot to do it, and now I gotta take care of all these little bits now, because otherwise they'll make the floor uneven. So I gotta pick them all off now. I remembered it earlier and then got excited with a drill in my hand, started doing robot noises, and then forgot to get a block of wood. I've gone round it all now and countersunk everything. Popped in the shop on the way to work this morning and got me some screws. The posi drive, I think it's a 4mm head, and then the length of them is 16mm, and obviously they're countersunk. So that's them there. So being 16mm means they're gonna poke out the bottom of the ply 4mm. They probably poke through it a little bit more than that with the countersunk drilling I've done, but at least they're not gonna come out the other side of the 9mm battens. I've given it a clean with the Henry, got all the dirt and dust and stones and stuff out of it, and now what I want to do is cut this to fit into the biggest areas where there isn't ribs. I'm not going to do it in between every single rib where there's the narrow areas, because I'd just be there forever. So again, I'm using the close cell foam, and I'm just gonna, I'm not bothering measuring, I'm just eyeballing it. That's it. So I'm just going to work my way through this now and show you it once it's done. I changed my mind. My OCD got to me and I ended up doing the whole floor in between all the ribs. So yeah, that took flipping ages, but if I didn't do in between them all, it looked a bit odd, just having random bits in different places. So yeah, it took a lot of time, but it's all gonna mount up and, you know, add to the warmth of the van, I suppose, or it might not do anything. I've also changed my mind on treating the boards before I put them down, because if I'm sealing all around the edge, then theoretically no moisture will get to the underneath of the board. So what I was thinking, get the boards in, seal around the edge, and then if I want to put some kind of waterproof coating on the top, then I can do that at a later date. One last job I gotta do before I can put the floor down is to make the front of this. That's the front part of the step cut, and it goes like so. So then the floorboard will sit on top of that then. So I'll bond it along here, and then I'll bond this to the floor there, and then eventually I will probably paint this so that the moisture doesn't get to it. And yeah, I think we're ready to put the floor down now. So first of all, let's bond this. I know, I can hear you saying it. floorboard that goes by there, I've cut the front off in line with this board, but I don't know whether it's perfect yet. So once the sealer is dry by there tomorrow, I might have to just run a sander across the front so it's level with that surface there. First one in. Now I'm not going to screw this one in yet and then do them, because if I screw this in slightly the wrong place then they won't fit. So we've got to get them in now as well and screw it all in at the same time. I'm liking these screws. They're not biting into the 9mm enough. Floor is down. Now you're probably wondering, Jazz, why you got loads of bricks on your floor for? For some reason, that board there is bowed, so it ain't sitting flat. If I had used that board for this area by here, then I think you wouldn't have noticed, because the screws would have pulled the bow out of it. But because it's such a narrow piece now where I've cut it, the bow is just staying there. It's, you know, it's staying strong. So what I did on this join between the two panels there, on the top of the rib on the van floor, I put a bead of sealer all the way down there, so at least the edge of both boards is sitting on some sealer. So that's why I've got the bricks on there to weigh that down. Tomorrow, take the bricks off, sand the lip off, then I'm going to run a bead of sealer all the way around the edge, and the final thing to do would be to, where this sealer is squirted out here, cut that off with a blade, and then if there's any discrepancies between this board and that board, then I'll get the sander out and sort that out. Another thing to point out, I didn't end up using the 16mm screws, so they were a waste of money. There just simply wasn't enough thread poking out the bottom of the 12mm to bite into the battens. They were just spinning, so I ended up going for the 20mm ones. Basically, it doesn't really matter if they come into contact with the van floor, because they're not going to go through it, and it's all going to be sealed all around the edges. So if they did even go through the Raptor paint and go to bare metal, then no moisture or air is going to get to it anyway, because it's all going to be sealed up. So yeah, the 20mm ones, they did a better job of biting into the battens. I've taken the bricks away this morning, and it didn't really go down anymore, and I did try and sand it a bit, but it's just not happening. I was that close to ripping that section out and tracing around it on the leftovers of the other board and making a new one. But then I thought, nah, control yourself, Jazz, it's all going to get covered up. This morning now, I've run all the way around it all with PU sealer. Seals it all up now so no moisture can get underneath, theoretically, and stops any dirt and stuff from going down the gaps. So yeah, there's my floor. First good floor it's had in years, because if you've seen the pictures in my very first episode, you would have seen the state of the one that was in it when I got the van. Now that we've got this, we can get on with getting the bed in, getting the ceiling on. We have to start thinking about getting some appliances and stuff now, like fridges and diesel heaters. But yeah, I think that's about it now. Hope you liked the video. Normally my videos are on how to do something or to guide you through the process. I am not a carpenter, so this is more of like a blog video on where I'm at on the van. So there is some little helpful tips along the way if you watch the whole video. But yeah, I definitely could have cut the profile of the boards in an easier way, which I will learn from for the next one. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Click on the subscribe button and I'll catch you in the next one. Right, a few questions. Someone mentioned the wheels on the van, why I had problems with them fitting, and a few people have said they haven't had problems with any BMWs fitting. Well, these are off an E36, the X5 Tiger Claws, and wheels off an E90 3 Series and stuff. Totally different diameters, totally different offsets, so yeah, nothing at all like these E36 wheels. I did have one person that mentioned that these actual wheels, he didn't have a problem with fitting them, but the only thing I can think of that might have a factor in fitting these, this is I'm not sure if it's a top spec one, but it's, you know, it's one of the higher spec vans. I'm not sure if they had different calipers on the lower spec models. That's all I can think of that might affect it as well. Loads of people are asking about the pods. I got some little alterations to make to them, which I will be doing this month, and then I'm going full steam ahead into production at the end of the month and into next month. There will be some available at the very beginning of next month. A lot of people loved the door cards, and someone asked me, am I doing anything to the dashboard? I don't think so. It needs a bloody good clean though. There's mold all over it from where the previous tenant, shall we say, decided to just flick his cup of tea everywhere. It was all over the headlining as well, so God knows what he was doing, but I jet washed that. So that's a top tip for anyone who's got a dirty headlining. Take it out and just lay it on the floor and jet wash it. It comes up a treat. It looks like brand new now. As for the dashboard, not really doing anything apart from a clean. Someone asked for the color code that I used on the door cards. It is beige grey and the manufacturer is GCC and the code is GCC 7034. I'll pop that in the description of the door card video as well, just so you know, just so it's there. I think that's about it for the questions and comments. If you've got any regarding the floor, then let me know. Pop it in the comments and I'll answer it at the next video.